Hi everyone, I'm Kevin Key, IT Professional Practices Lead at ISACA, and we're here today with the last installment of our Emerging Tech series in 2021. Be sure to check the ISACA YouTube channel for past episodes on IoT, blockchain, AI, and cloud. Today, I have Ramses Gallego, a member of ISACA's Emerging Tech Committee, here with me for a conversation on ultra emerging technologies. Ramses, welcome. Can you start by telling us a little bit about yourself and your current role?
It's truly a pleasure to be participating in this. I'm sitting here in Barcelona, Spain, and it's a blessing, to be addressing our audience and ISACA constituency in this live session on emerging technologies and what it means for us all. So it's great to be here. Pleasure.
Awesome. So yeah, let's go right into it. We're talking about emerging technologies. Topic number one here is quantum computing. It's not in the hands of everyday consumers, and it's definitely one of those ultra emerging technologies. So what is it, and why is it considered emerging?
Well, thank you again, Kevin, for the question. And this is super important because actually I teach on quantum computing. I know that we have roughly, like 5, 6, 4 minutes to talk about it, but let me squeeze. The discipline of quantum computing is that one that is based on the laws of quantum mechanics and quantum physics that actually translates into computing. So based on that strange behavior of particles in nature, again in the quantum world, based on quantum physics and quantum mechanics, the question is that if a quantum computer would exist, and they do, it's how they treat speed and computing power. Let me be very short on fundamentals on quantum computing, Kevin, and here, and for our audience from around the world, is regular IT technology today. Everybody knows that the unit of power is the bit, which can have a value of a 0 of a 1, and then the combination of zeros and ones make our files and videos and invoices and documents. All right, great. The thing is that with quantum computing, the unit of power is a qubit, Q from quantum. And then, because of the laws of quantum mechanics and quantum physics, the unit of power can either have a position of a 0, a 1, or both things at the same time. Both things at the same time, that is called superposition. And because of that, the speed and computing power of quantum computers are things that we have never seen before. So again, I would say it's another game, it's another universe. So let me use the following, Kevin, before your next question, which is, let's call actual computers, even the fastest on Earth, even the fastest computer on the planet, because it's still working with zeros and ones, so bits. We need to call it legacy computing very soon. So it is very important, and the impact for security and cybersecurity and privacy and auditing is very important. Back to you, but I'll try to squeeze it, on quantum computing, because again, I teach on that.
No, that's great. And yes, it's very advanced topics, and we're going to start to see more of this down in the next few years. But why should this matter to ISACA constituency?
Well, it should matter because, trust me, this is not a topic, Kevin, and the rest of you, for 30 years from today or 50 years from today. I call it the future of now. But I call it the future of now, certainly not in 1 year or two. The impact on encryption, and I'm very serious on that, the impact on the way we create secret and keep secrets is going to change, because all of the encryption methodologies that we know, and listen, that we still teach in the university today, RSA encryption, Diffie-Hellman encryption, elliptic curve, any encryption, which is great, is the way we hide things, is based on the impossibility, or let me call it the difficulty, of factorizing large prime numbers, of solving a very complex problem in maths, that is factorizing large prime numbers. The thing is that with Shor's algorithm in 1994, Shor, a scientist, discovered or coined the algorithm to factorize large prime numbers. The problem is, ladies and gentlemen, that we don't have still today enough computing power to run Shor's algorithm from 1994 in an effective and an efficient way. When quantum computing gets to around 10,000 qubits, that unit of power that I just mentioned before, When we get to around 10,000 qubits, we are today around 2,000-ish, 2,500. So there's still a way to go. But when we get to 10,000 qubits, we could run Shor's algorithm in an effective and an efficient way. And that means, and I'm looking straight into the camera when I'm saying this, that potentially means that any encryption known by humans today could be broken. Any secret, I mean, nuclear codes or energy plans, Department of Defense strategies, and that's a new world. That's a world with no secrets. Of course, the question is, and for ISACA members again that are gathering with us today, is that but there has to be a solution, Ramses, right? Or Kevin. I mean, there's a solution for that. Well, yes and no. The world is working, and specifically the NIST, the National Institute for Standards and Technology, is working on a post quantum cryptography, so a cryptography that is resistant to quantum attacks. That's the yes part of my answer. The no is not yet a reality. It's just on white paper. It's working on that. So interesting things on this emerging technology, Kevin, and the rest of you on quantum technology and computers. And listen, and how it will change forever the way of cybersecurity, privacy, encryption, and etc. Back to you.
Yeah, I mean, that's amazing stuff. Definitely worrisome, but great information. So let's move on to nanotechnology. So, nanotech, what is it?
Well, nanotechnology is that field of research. I wouldn't even call it the discipline, if you will, but it's that field of research. The name was coined in 1974 by Norio Taniguchi from the Tokyo Science University. And it's that field of research that is about the opportunity of manipulating matter working at a super small scales. When I say about super small scales, this is why it's called nanotechnology. Well, let me brief our audience here with a couple of examples that I think is super cool. You know, a human hair, the size of a human hair is between 50,000 to 100,000 nanometers. Well, nanotechnology works at a scale that goes from 1 nanometer to 100 nanometer. And again, a human hair, 50,000 to 100,000. If you would like, a nanometer is to a tennis ball what that tennis ball would mean to Earth. I'm talking about super atomic sizes. And that's the technology, right? So I'm talking about the opportunity of building new things, even creating new materials, because when you manipulate matter, I mean, the behavior of matter, and going back maybe to my quantum computing, very brief science topic, which is when you manipulate matter and those super nano scales, I mean, they change behavior and they change sizes and structures, even that. So back to you, Kevin, but that's the definition of nanotechnology, right?
Yeah, so with your definition, I think there's no further explanation on why it's considered emerging. I think it's
Correct.
pretty obvious in that regard, but why should it matter to our viewers again?
So it matters because, again, the opportunity of building better structures with, let's call it, on the health world, you know, on the defense sector, let's say. I mean, when you talk about building new materials, finding new structures on Earth, when, well, let's say, you know, like coal, you know, the coal, it can turn into a diamond, or the new material that is graphene. I'm talking about things that exist today, but it's just basically the same material with different structure because of heat, because of, you know, the way that molecules combine. Okay, that's why, you know, coal turns into diamond or other material, right? Okay, when we talk about building new things, let me say for energy systems, or cosmetics, you know, or for the fields of water filtration. I mean, building new materials and structures into those sort of things. But let me go straight into your question, which why does it matter to the people from more than 20 countries that follow with us today? Because how are you going to audit that? How are you going to put trust in things that the human eye can hardly see? Remember, I'm talking about 1 nanometer to 100 nanometers. What about trust but verify? So the things that we do at ISACA, you know, when it's about auditing and providing assurance and the governance aspect of all that, and I can say the same for quantum computing, by the way. So with nanotechnology, how are we going to ask the right questions to the right people at the right time? You know, new structures, new behaviors, things that when they are going to be mainstream, they are not today. This is why it's called emerging technology. But when they are going to be mainstream, how are we going to understand that nano microscopic world? That how are we going to ask those right questions and write the right regulations and legislation for all that? This is why I think it matters to the ISACA constituency and ISACA members around the world, because it's a field that sooner or later we'll have to start, at least, as I always say, with emerging technologies, start the conversation. And I can say the same for quantum, and I'm saying the same for nanotechnology. Start the understanding of all that. Back to you, Kevin. Yep.
That's great insight. So this is definitely a interesting topic that I want to move on to next. Internet of behavior. So what is it?
Woo! Internet of behavior. I love it because it's I have to say that it's a derivative of something that we at ISAC understand very well. IoT, Internet of Things. Great. Everything connected to the internet, great, fantastic. Actually, in our sessions, and I have been in, I don't know, hundreds of ISACA, gatherings and events and conferences, virtual, because of COVID these days, but it's not just the Internet of Things, but the Internet of everything. Am I right? Okay, so someone coined the term IOB, the Internet of Behavior. Actually, it was Goat Nyman in 2012 from the University of Helsinki. So Goat Nyman came out with this idea of the Internet of Behavior, which is basically in the very same way that we understand the Internet of Things, which is a network of things hyper-connected and everything super connected, and this is why the Internet of Everything. I mean, am I right if I say that we have a network of humans from a psychological perspective, the way we behave and we interact with social media, the way we buy, our patterns of behavior? I think that it's another acronym that is very cool. The Internet of Behavior, not just an individual psychology or behavior, but a collective psychology, which actually I think that is very good in terms of predicting patterns, not just buying patterns, which of course is good, but patterns of behavior. And I know, Kevin, that you're going to ask me, but let me on that. But let me start open the door to governments, social media, service providers. So again, it's the idea of connected humans, the way we interact with technology. And well, back to you, and I will develop in a couple of minutes more. Go back to you.
Now you're starting to see a pattern in some of my questions. So yeah, you started to mention, patterns of behavior and why it's considered emerging. And again, why is this important to ISACA members, to our viewers here, constituency, etc.?
Well, I think absolutely, Kevin. Thank you. And I think it matters because again, it's first of the three topics that we are talking. So quantum computing, nanotechnology, Internet of Behavior is probably of the three the most human related, meaning, I mean, it's about me and you and how you interact. Actually, with the idea of providing a better service, I understand that my government collectively wants to gather data for my great good. And I appreciate that, but it does matter to ISACA members because again, trust, governance, privacy, probably that's one of the topics of the three that we are mentioning today, the hottest topic of the three for the moment on privacy and then assurance. Okay, when you combine that, Kevin, with another acronym, and again, we are talking about the Internet of Behavior, but let me drop another one, which is UEBA, User and Entity Behavior Analytics, UEBA. So the moment that you bring not just behavior analytics for users, that it's about the Internet of Behavior, how we behave, but also entities, meaning machines and algorithms in a collective way, I think that you can have predictions. I mean, what if I tell you that service providers are using the Internet of Behavior? That is probably of the three that we are talking today, the most present, I would say, because it's happening as we speak. The way you interact with your social media, with your Twitter, your Facebook, your Googles, where you are based, how you are based, who you are connected with. So in terms of providing services for, I don't know, health monitoring, great, fantastic. But then that opens the door for privacy. And if I'm being tracked, well, the answer is yes, but in a collective manner. So in order to end that, and again, why does it matter to the ISACA members and ISACA constituency? Because when we talk and have certifications on security and governance and assurance and risk, when you talk about the Internet of Behavior, and that actually started this question, Kevin, started with IoT, a couple of 3 minutes, 4 minutes ago. Well, IoT can also mean the Internet of Threads if we don't do it right. Well, IoT can also mean the Internet of Trouble if we don't do it right. So I think that IOB, the Internet of Behavior, is one smaller part of that overarching umbrella of user and entity behavior analytics, collective intelligence or collective data that can be used for the greater good. But we at ISACA, we need to be paying attention to assurance, trust, auditing, governance, privacy, and risk. Back to you.
Awesome. So I'm super excited to talk about this topic because it has been such a current event. So XR and VR. So
All right, very rapidly. Love it, love it. This fourth one, I love it, Kevin, because XR, it stands for extended reality, which is that overarching umbrella that combines virtual reality, hybrid reality or mixed reality, MR, and then of course augmented reality. Okay, so XR is that overarching umbrella. Okay, so is the category for everything related to a computer altered reality or or computer generated reality. So again, X meaning extended, but let me open up 2 layers of answer. Okay, well, virtual reality is about computer generated reality, period, and you can have your glasses or you can have on a game, so everything is computer generated. Augmented reality, and I would say, Kevin, that this is probably the hottest of the three, maybe mixed reality or so MR or AR. Augmented reality is probably the two hottest. Virtual reality, I mean, we're doing that when we play or consoles or PC games or whatever, right? But augmented reality is that overlay content on top of the real world. So it adds a layer of information, which again, I think it's very important in terms of trust and privacy and added information. So it brings an overall overlay, content on that reality. Okay, so it is very immersive, especially these days that we are talking about the metaverses and my avatar and the things that I can do in a space that it's me, but then it's not me. So I think it's very interesting. And by the way, most of the big names in the industry are putting a lot of billions, if not trillions of dollars in that immersive technology. I mean, impersonating, which I think that brings, when you ask me the question about why does it matter to ISACA, constituency and members around the world. So when you impersonate, I mean, accountability and responsibility is very important. But let me give it back to you, and then I will answer that question. But I think it's super cool, modern, fresh, extended reality. So it's a mix of those two worlds, but it has implications, of course. Back to you, Kevin.
right. So we're already talking about why it's considered emerging and the implications of that. But again, and how it applies to ISACA and the viewers that are here today. Very exciting.
That's great. Thank you very much. Let me finish. I already opened that door, but it has an impact again, because in my mind, as an ISACA member, and I have been international vice president at the board of directors with ISACA, I have been president of the Barcelona chapter, I have co-authored some of the ISACA deliverables, so it's a blessing for me to be addressing you. And when it's about extended reality and augmented reality, the implications are, when we talk about trust, when we talk about, and by the way, that works in English, not in every language they have this distinction, Kevin, but in Spanish, we don't have the difference between accountability and responsibility. But in English, it does exist. So being accountable and being responsible are different things, right? So in that metaverse, in that extended reality, augmented reality, mixed reality world, your actions, I mean, if you are a troll or you're bullying someone, which of course you shouldn't. I mean, what are the implications of that mixed reality? So again, fantastic technology is considered emerging, especially these days, because it's ramping up. I mean, massive amounts of money being invested on XR, extended reality. But again, whether if it's overlay content on top of the real world, whether if it's a completely new world, again, the holy disciplines of being nice, professional, accountable, the impact, privacy. Again, once again, my avatar, is the avatar me or is it not? So the digital Ramses is Ramses or is it not? Can I tamper with someone else's avatar? in the very same way that unfortunately cyber criminals steal our credentials. So I think this is very important. And of all of those, the four topics that we have talked today, and we are missing some others, blockchain and machine learning. But we at ISACA, Kevin, we have the CET, the Certified in Emerging Technology. ISACA is paying a lot of attention to existing things, regular things on auditing. And I'm a CISM, I'm a C guy. I have a lot of certification from ISACA, which is a blessing. COVID, of course, not the pandemic. I mean, the governance framework from ISACA. But the CET, Certified in Emerging Technology, by the way, it's a stackable technology with different certificates that together they make up a certification in ET, emerging technologies. And most of them are the things that we are talking about here: machine learning, blockchain, the implications of privacy, and then all those things that are very important. So again, today you asked me about four of them, but it's about emerging being for the future. But I like to say always the future of now, Kevin. I mean, the future is happening right now, right? Maybe some of them are 5 years from today, 7, 10, who knows? But certainly we are not talking about a century from today. We're not talking about 70 years from today. We're talking about next year, 2 years from now, maybe 7 or 10 with quantum computing. But the conversation should be starting now. And I think that sessions like this one, which again, I'm privileged to be delivering with your help, and to the countries that are joining, and then CET as the ISACA certification. I think that's the way to go, understanding the world around us. Back to you.
Well, thank you for plugging the CET stackable certification from ISACA. So to our viewers, please check that out. It's a great program.
I know that there are questions, but probably we don't have the time for solving all of them. But if there are no questions, the question is, what's next in the phase? So if we take quantum computing, topic number one, if we take, Internet of Behaviors, or if we take, XR and VR, or if we take, a nanotechnology, I mean, what's next? So define career path and something. I think there's a question over there, Kevin. Go ahead, if you will.
So Adeyemi says, how can you certify in something that is still emerging?
That's a very good question, Yemi. And the thing is that specifically CET doesn't try to solve everything. It's not a magic one, but I think it's, and I mean it from the bottom of my heart, I think it's beautiful that even if it's still emerging, the fundamentals, the pillars, are still there. Again, even if quantum computing, you think it's just still emerging, because it is. Actually, I teach for hours on quantum computing. So does it mean that because it's still emerging, I needed the discipline to finish in order to start talking about it, in order to start to understanding, to embracing? I mean, it takes years of research, and then, researchers and teachers and public speakers, and we are embracing that. So Adeyemi, I appreciate your question, but I think that the beauty is that specifically and precisely, I would say, because it's still emerging, isn't it good that we start talking? When are we going to talk about nanotechnology? When it's already said and done? I think that we have to understand, and actually, as Kevin was asking me, we at ISACA and other people asking the right questions to the right people at the right time, raising our hands, saying, what about privacy in here? Hey, what about assurance in there? How are you going to audit that? And specifically, certifying on the knowledge on the path on an emerging technology. This is why it's called CET, Certified in Emerging Technology. That would be my answer, Adeyemi, but I appreciate your question. Back to you, Kevin.
Right. And to back off that, the building blocks, the fundamentals, right, they're going to stay the same while it just keeps getting more advanced. The next question I have from Vrinder, any books you would recommend?
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Brinder, for the question. But there are many. Good news is that, on quantum computing, there are many. Actually, and there are very good feeds on, white papers from vendors like the Googles of the world and the Amazons of the world. So there are very good free material, that you can. I'm not going to mention Twitter because you know how it is, but there are very good feeds on Twitter as well, and others, right? But especially on quantum computing, I even recall there's a quantum computer for kids. I'm not joking. It's how you tell your kids about that other aspect of nature. And again, I'm talking about the laws of quantum mechanics and quantum physics. I mentioned on my answer to Kevin about superposition, remember? It's a beautiful thing to talk and to learn about. There's another thing called entanglement, that two different particles, two different atoms or photons of light, even separated, they are the same. So they are, this is like not time traveling, but space traveling. So there are many books. Unfortunately, I don't have the time, but if you want to reach to me, I will put my email, or you can follow me on Twitter, on LinkedIn, and on Facebook. But I would certainly recommend Brinder some books. But there are many good ones. And of course, ISACA has very good white papers. By the way, I didn't tell you at the beginning because of the sound problem, but I'm a member of the ETAG, Emerging Technology Advisory Group for ISACA, which is a blessing. It's a pleasure. And we produce material. We produced a very good blockchain, book or white paper. We produce machine learning, how to audit machine learning. So very good material, not only within the walls of ISACA, that I have to say, of course, but also out there. But you can reach out for me, and then I will also recommend. Thank you for that. Back to you, Kevin. Thank you.
Yeah, and another plug. There's also a AI in Blue Team security white paper that just released this past week. So please check that out as well. Another question: what would be a comprehensive explanation for ET, emerging tech?
Who? I'm not sure, Mugurel. I'm not sure if I understand the question, but emerging technology is that technology that is not finalized, that started as a consequence of some other discovery, like quantum computing in the early 90s, so 1920, with Einstein and it was Rodinger and other people. I mean, blockchain as a consequence of, you want an anonymization, machine learning. There are 4 types of machine learning. So as a consequence of using algorithms for the greater good. So comprehensive explanation for emerging technology is that field of research / technology that starts and develops over time in order to expand and amplify our understanding of the world. So it's emerging because it's not mainstream. It's emerging because it's not finalized, as per the question before, but then it's ramping up. I mean, if as some analysts are doing, I mean, you have a slope like a curve, I mean, it's ramping up. It's not going down like, okay, all technology, it's already set and done. Quite on the contrary, it's just starting, probably not at the bottom, but it's ramping up. And I can say that for nanotechnology, I can say that for quantum technology. And again, I teach on quantum, and there are a couple of analysts that on their curve or the slope of excitement, they put it right in the middle as it going up. So that would be my answer, as a comprehensive explanation for emerging technology. Back to you, Kevin.
That's a great explanation. I think, depending on time, I think we will have one more question,
Okay.
which is a great question. Which area do you think we will feel the most immediate impact from positive or negative in 2022?
Okay, thank you, Ash, for the question. Very, very, very good. I'm going to try to squeeze it because I can elaborate for hours on that. Actually, let me answer on 2 layers, Ash, and with your permission, Kevin. Of the four that we mentioned, certainly augmented reality, or XR, it's already happening. Massive investments. Again, some vendors have already said that it's going to be the environment and the platform that is going to happen. So of the 4 that I just mentioned, certainly in 2022, that's your question, Ash. Not quantum, not in 2022. Not nanotechnology, not in 2022. And a combination of the Internet of Behavior and that metaverse, augmented reality, hybrid mixed reality, both of them together, I would say, because patterns of behavior and all those things will certainly have an impact on 2022 and beyond, but 2022 already. If it's positive or if it's negative, wow, I mean, again, I have a mixed sensation. Again, when you consider privacy, when you consider assurance and trust, and it's about user and entity behavior analytics, so it's about algorithms and collective psychology. I mean, we should talk more, Ash, in order to agree or disagree if it's positive or if it's negative. But it is happening in this future of now. For the 4 I've just mentioned, or Kevin asked me about, XR, augmented reality, hybrid reality, and a combination of everything related to human psychology, collective interactivity and interactions. I would say that. Back to you, Kevin.
Awesome. Well, unfortunately, we have to wrap up, but thank you all for joining us today. Again, if you're interested in emerging technologies, I encourage you to check out ISACA's Certified in Emerging Technologies credential that was launched earlier this year. Ramses, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate it. Have a great day.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure. Thanks for having me. And you know where to find me if you need anything. Thank you, ISACA, and all of the countries. It was a blessing. Bye-bye. Cheers.
Bye.